For centuries, the universe believed humanity was extinct. Civilizations moved on, galaxies forgot our name. But deep in the shadows of a ruined world, a single colony remained. And when the aliens returned ready to claim a dead planet, they discovered a horrifying truth. Humans were not gone. We were waiting. The year was 3124, and the universe had already forgotten Earth. To most alien civilizations, humans were nothing more than an old myth, a vanished species. History books described us as reckless creatures who destroyed their own planet with wars and pollution. Some even laughed at the idea that we had ever been dangerous. To the galaxy, humanity was gone extinct, erased, a whisper lost in time. But the truth was different. Far beneath the ruins of mountains and buried inside the shattered bones of cities, there was life. Hidden in deep underground caverns, protected by technology older than memory, the last human colony survived. Only a few thousand remained, their faces marked with scars of survival. They lived in silence, growing food with machines powered by ancient solar banks, recycling every drop of water, training every child not just to live but to fight. Above ground, Earth was dead. The oceans were poisoned, the skies thick with toxic dust. Cities had collapsed into skeletons of stone and steel. The planet looked empty, a graveyard drifting in space. And that was exactly how the humans wanted it. They'd learned long ago that the best way to survive was to remain unseen. For centuries, no alien dared to visit Earth. Why would they? The planet was useless, burned by human mistakes. But in time, the galaxy grew crowded, and explorers began to map old worlds once. Again, one such fleet belonging to a reptilian race known as the Korth arrived in orbit around Earth. Their scanners read no signals, no energy, no signs of life. To them, it was a perfect place to strip for resources. The Korth descended, their ships cutting through the poisonous clouds, their soldiers marching across ruined streets. They laughed at the silence, mocking the dead humans who had left behind nothing but rubble. They believed Earth was theirs for the taking, but as they dug deeper, they began to notice something strange. Some of the ruins showed signs of being cleared recently. Rusted vehicles were moved aside, and tunnels were blocked with fresh stone. A scouting unit swore they saw shadows moving at night. At first, the Korth commanders dismissed it as superstition. But then, one of their patrols never returned. Next day, another patrol vanished. Their weapons were found broken, their armor torn apart. No bodies were left behind. The Korth grew uneasy, whispering that maybe Earth wasn't as empty as it seemed. And then, the humans struck. From hidden passages beneath the ground, they emerged like ghost figures in dark armor forged from scavenged metal. Their weapons were simple but deadly, powered by old Earth technology and sharpened with centuries of hatred. The Korth soldiers were ambushed, their screams swallowed by the dead city. For the first time in 1,000 years, the universe's greatest mistake revealed itself. Humanity had not died. Humanity had learned to wait. And now, the last human colony was ready to fight back. The Korth expected weak creatures hiding in the dirt. They thought humans, if any had survived, would be pale, starving, and broken. But the beings that crawled out of the shadows were nothing like the stories. These were not fragile survivors. They were predators. Generations of hiding had reshaped the last human colony into something far more dangerous than their ancestors. Every child was trained to fight from the time they could walk. Every adult knew how to kill in silence. They had no armies, no vast fleets, no shining weapons of the future. But they had discipline, instinct, and a fury that had been burning. For centuries they were lean, strong, and scarred. Their eyes glowed with a strange brightness from living underground. A mix of natural evolution and crude biomodifications, they wore armor built from scavenged alien metal, pieces stolen from ancient crash sites, and reforged in hidden forges. Their weapons were just as strange, blades coated with toxins made from poisonous earth plants, rifles powered by batteries older than memory, and explosives created from scraps of alien technology mixed with human genius. The Korth patrols that disappeared never saw them coming. A shadow would slip behind a soldier, a blade would flash, and then silence. Others were dragged into tunnels, never to return. The colony had perfected guerrilla warfare, turning the ruins of cities into deadly traps. But what shocked the Korth most was not their weapons, it was their spirit. The humans did not fight for conquest or resources. They fought with something the galaxy had long forgotten: rage. To them, the aliens above were not invaders. They were executioners returning to finish what history had started. The humans would rather die clawing at their enemies than live as ghosts. Among the survivors were strange leaders, legends whispered inside the colony. There was Mara, the Iron Mother, who trained children by making them run blindfolded through collapsing tunnels. There was Kale, a scarred soldier said to have survived 7 battles without ever being wounded, his body moving with unnatural speed. And there was Elias, the Keeper of Fire, who guarded the last fragments of ancient human technology, devices older than the colony itself, some of which even he did not fully understand. When the Korth tried to capture one of these leaders, sending in full squads of armored troops, none returned. Days later, their helmets were found stacked neatly on the ruins of an old church. A warning carved into the stone: "We are still here." The galaxy had forgotten humans. They were a species erased from history, dismissed as reckless failures. But survival had changed them. These survivors were no longer the same people who once walked open cities under blue skies. They were sharper, faster, hungrier. They were the kind of humans who could hide from death itself. The Korth had come to strip a dead planet. Instead, they had awakened something far worse: a colony of strange, unbroken survivors who carried the fury of an entire species inside their hearts. The last humans had waited 1,000 years in silence. And now the universe would remember their name again. The first attacks were whispers in the dark. Alien patrols vanishing, camps burned to ash overnight, supplies stolen before guards even knew they were missing. At first, the Korth commanders thought it was sabotage from their own soldiers. When the bodies began to appear cut open, armor shredded, they realized the truth. The humans were no longer hiding. They had declared war. It started in the ruins of New York, where the Korth had built their base, a fortress of steel and energy. Shields stood over the remains of skyscrapers. They believed it was untouchable. But the humans knew those ruins better than any alien map. On the third night, when the alien guards were least alert, shadows rose from broken subway tunnels. The humans struck with terrifying precision, explosives hidden in ancient sewer pipes, blasted holes through the alien shields. Snipers positioned in crumbling towers rained fire down on the soldiers. And from the darkness of the tunnels came wave after wave of human fighters, their war cries echoing across the dead city. The Korth fought back with plasma rifles and heavy armor, but they were unprepared for an enemy that refused to fight like a normal army. Humans didn't line up in ranks. They didn't retreat when outnumbered. They swarmed, vanished, and returned again from every side. To the Korth, it felt less like a battle and more like being hunted. One alien commander shouted over the comms, "They're everywhere!" His voice cut off as a blade slipped between his armor plates. His helmet camera later showed nothing but a flash of steel and human eyes burning with fury. By morning, the alien base was nothing but smoke. Hundreds of Korth soldiers lay dead, their weapons stripped, their bodies unburied, painted in blood. Across the ruins of a skyscraper were 4 words that chilled even the bravest alien warriors: "We never died." News of the battle spread through the Korth fleet in orbit. Shock turned to rage. Reinforcements were dropped onto Earth, thousands of alien troops armed with the deadliest weapons in the galaxy. The Korth expected the humans to run, to retreat back into their caves, but the colony had no intention of hiding anymore. The humans struck again, this time in the deserts where alien harvesters were draining Earth's last resources. They sabotaged machines, turned alien tech against its creators, and set entire fields of equipment ablaze. Every attack was brutal and merciless. The Korth commanders began to realize the truth. This was not just resistance. It was survival warfare. The humans were fighting not for land, not for riches, but for existence itself. And nothing in the galaxy fought harder than a species with nothing left to lose. Within weeks, the war spread across the planet. Battles raged in the ruins of cities and mountains and deserts, even beneath the oceans where hidden colonies had survived in sealed domes. The aliens called it chaos. The humans called it justice. For the first time in centuries, Earth was alive. Again, not with peace, but with fire. The endless war had begun. In every war, leaders rise from the fire. But these were not kings, not generals trained in golden halls, not politicians with fine speeches. These were survivors, men and women shaped by centuries of hunger, fear, and silence. And when the last human colony went to war, their leaders became legends. The first was Mara, the Iron Mother. Her face was marked by deep scars, her hair silver from years underground, but her voice carried power. She was not only a fighter, she was a teacher. For decades, she had trained children in the dark tunnels, making them crawl through collapsing shafts, fight blindfolded, and survive with nothing but their hands. Her philosophy was simple. If they can survive here, they can survive anywhere. Now, her students fought on the surface, striking fear into alien armies. To the Korth, Mara was a ghost, a figure whispered about in terror. To the humans, she was the beating heart of their survival. Then there was Kale, silent blade. He never spoke in battle, and some said he barely spoke at all. His body was a map of scars, but he moved with the speed of a shadow. Kale fought with blades, refusing to waste precious bullets. Entire alien squads would vanish into ruins, their armor sliced open with surgical precision. Soldiers claimed they saw him leap from building to building, his eyes glowing in the dark, his blades whispering death. To the Korth, he was a nightmare. To the humans, he was proof that one man could change the tide of war. And then came Elias, the keeper of fire. He was the colony's oldest scientist, a man who remembered the last fragments of Earth's lost technology. While others fought with steel and blades, Elias turned forgotten machines into weapons of legend. He built railguns from old satellite parts, bombs from alien scrap, and even crude drones that could fly through ruined skies. But his most terrifying creation was the fire, an energy weapon that burned so hot it melted alien armor in seconds. Elias gave the humans not just hope, but the power to fight an enemy with far greater numbers. Together, these leaders formed a strange council. They had no throne room, no flags, no ceremony. They met in the ruins of an underground bunker. Their table nothing more than a cracked slab of stone. But their decisions shaped the war. Mara spoke for the people, Kale for the warriors, and Elias for the future. The Korth commanders could not understand them. Aliens fought for empires, for resources, for glory. But these humans fought for survival, bound together not by law, but by blood and memory. That unity gave them strength the galaxy had never seen. Under their guidance, the humans grew bolder. Ambushes turned into full battles. Raids turned into sieges. Entire alien camps were overrun, their weapons stolen and turned against them. And each victory echoed across the stars, carried by rumors and whispers. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy heard the name human spoken with fear, and the leaders of the last colony knew this was only the beginning. The war had raged for months. The Korth, once confident, now moved cautiously through Earth's ruins. Patrols traveled only in large numbers, and even then many never returned. Human ambushes had bled them badly, but the aliens still outnumbered. The colony, 100 to 1. Victory seemed impossible until the night of the turning point. It happened in the ruins of what was once London. Korth had built a fortress around the shattered skeleton of the city, using it as their main command post. From there, they controlled the skies with powerful orbital beacons that tracked every human movement. As long as those beacons stood, the aliens would always know where the humans hid Mara. Kale and Elias gathered in the underground tunnels beneath the city. The plan they made was simple and insane. Destroy the beacon. To do that, they would have to infiltrate the alien stronghold at its heart, a fortress crawling with thousands of Korth soldiers at midnight. The humans rose from the shadows. Kale led a team through collapsed subway lines, striking silently at alien patrols before they could raise alarms. His blades flashed in the dark, leaving trails of fallen enemies. Mara's fighters stormed ruined streets, drawing alien fire and forcing them into traps. And Elias, carrying his greatest invention yet, moved with them, an energy bomb built from stolen alien cores, powerful enough to vaporize the beacon in a single blast. The battle was chaos. Plasma fire lit up the night sky, turning the ruins of London into a war zone. Humans fought like demons, using every street, every wall, every broken building as a weapon. The Korth commanders panicked. Their scanners showed enemies everywhere, striking from shadows, disappearing, then returning in force at the heart of the city. Elias and his team reached the beacon. It was a massive tower of alien metal, glowing with green energy, pulsing like a beating heart. The Korth guards fought desperately to protect it, but Mara's warriors slammed into them with unstoppable fury. And bullets ran dry, blades shattered. But still the humans pushed forward. Elias placed the bomb at the tower's base. His hand shook as he activated it. For a moment, he hesitated. This was not just a weapon, but the last piece of stolen technology he had built with his own lives. "Work. For humanity," he whispered, and pressed the switch. The explosion was blinding. A wave of fire and energy tore through the city, collapsing the beacon in a storm of sparks and metal. The shockwave knocked ships from the sky, fried alien scanners, and shattered the Korth's control of Earth. For the first time in centuries, skies above the planet were free, but victory came with a cost. When the smoke cleared, Elias was going to sacrifice in the fire he had created. His body was never found, only the melted remains of the beacon. News of the explosion spread fast. Across Earth, human survivors rose with renewed hope. They saw that the aliens were not invincible, that even the greatest fortress could fall. And for the first time, the Korth themselves felt something they had never expected to feel toward humanity: fear. The turning point had come. The last human colony was no longer just surviving. They were winning. The destruction of the London beacon shook the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, an alien empire had been humiliated on Earth, the planet everyone thought was dead. The Korth had believed humans were nothing but a forgotten species, wiped out by their own mistakes. Now that belief was crumbling. In their war councils, Korth commanders argued bitterly. Some demanded full extermination, burn every ruin, collapse every tunnel, and glass the planet from orbit. Others warned that such destruction would cost them more resources than Earth was worth. But beneath the debates was a deeper, more dangerous truth. The Korth were afraid. Reports from surviving soldiers told the same story. They spoke of shadows that struck without warning, of human warriors who moved faster than scanners could track, of blades and bullets that never seemed to miss. Soldiers swore that even when humans were wounded, they kept fighting, crawling through blood and smoke until their enemies fell. "They don't fear death," one officer whispered to the council. "They use it as a weapon." Fought countless species across the stars, but none like this. Most races surrendered when faced with overwhelming numbers. Others begged for mercy. But humans were different. They fought harder the closer they came to defeat, turning desperation into fury. The galaxy had always thought humans destroyed themselves because they were reckless, but the Korth were beginning to realize the truth. Humans had survived their own apocalypse because they refused to die. On the battlefield, the realization grew clearer. In the deserts, alien harvesters vanished overnight, burned by human firebombs. In the mountains, supply lines collapsed as ambushes tore through convoys. Even the oceans, once thought unreachable, became battlefields as hidden domes of human survivors launched torpedoes at alien ships. Everywhere the humans were there. Too few to form armies, but too dangerous to ignore. The Korth commanders grew desperate. They brought in heavier weapons, war machines the size of buildings, but the more they escalated, the more cunning the humans became. They turned the machines into traps, leading them into narrow ruins where the giants toppled and burned.
Ah!
They used the enemy's own technology against them, hacking into alien comms, sending false orders, splitting their armies apart. Slowly, the aliens began to understand what they were truly facing. Humans weren't fighting for land or riches, weren't fighting for glory. They were fighting for something the Korth could never. Understand survival at any cost. One alien commander finally admitted the truth in a council meeting. His voice was low, his scales pale with fear. "We thought they were extinct," he said, "but extinction cannot claim them. They are not like us. They're something else. Something worse. Species that refuses to die." Silence followed his words. Every commander in the room knew he was right. The Korth had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened the last human colony and enemy who had learned to turn weakness into strength, loss into fury, and survival into war. And now the galaxy would have to remember what it had tried so hard to forget. Humans were still here, and they were not done. The Korth could no longer ignore the humans. What began as whispers of survival had grown into a full war shaking their empire. If they didn't crush Earth now, the galaxy would see them as weak. And so, the Korth prepared their final strike. From orbit, their warships blackened the skies. Thousands of soldiers marched across the ruins. War machines the size of skyscrapers thundered through the cities. The Korth wanted this battle to be the last. They wanted to erase humanity once and for all, but the last human colony was ready, in the underground bunkers. Mara, Kale, and the remaining leaders gathered their people. They had no fleets, no armies, and no endless supplies. What they had was courage, cunning, and fury, sharpened by centuries of survival. This was not just another raid. This was their final stand. Mara stood before the fighters, her scarred face hard, but her voice unshaken. "This is the day they expect us to fall," she said. "But today is not the end. Today, we show the galaxy that humans do not vanish. We fight, we endure, and even if we burn, our fire will never die." The humans struck as the Korth advanced. Kale led a team through collapsing towers, cutting down alien squads with his blades, vanishing into smoke before reinforcements could find him. His movements were like shadows come to life, his silence louder than any war cry. The Korth soldiers whispered his name in fear even as they fell. Mara's warriors fought with unmatched ferocity. They lured the alien war machines into ruin. Streets rigged with explosives, collapsing entire skyscrapers onto their armored shells. Fire and dust filled the skies as titans of metal crashed into rubble. Against impossible odds, humans kept fighting, each one ready to die if it meant taking an enemy with them. Then came the moment the galaxy would never forget. High above the battlefield, Korth flagship floated like a black mountain. Its cannons could level entire cities in minutes. But deep inside the ruins, Ilias's final invention, his fire core, was waiting. The humans had carried it for months, knowing it might be their last hope. A team of fighters, faces grim, sacrificed themselves to carry it aboard the alien flagship. The explosion that followed turned the night sky into day. The flagship cracked in half, burning as it fell into the atmosphere, a fireball visible across the planet. The fall of the flagship shattered the Korth army's spirit. Their formations broke, their soldiers scattered. For the first time in the war, the aliens fled from humans. The battlefield was silent except for the roar of flames and the ragged breaths of the survivors. The last human colony had not only survived, they had won. Mara stood among the ruins, her eyes turned to the burning sky. Kale, bloodied but alive, joined her side. Around them, the last survivors of their people stood tall, battered but unbroken. They had no fleets, no empire, no cities. But they had proven something greater, that humans were not a forgotten mistake. They were a force that refused to die. The galaxy would remember this day, the day the last human colony rose from the ashes and ended the lie.